So, last month, Vessel of Hatred released for Diablo 4, marking the first expansion release for the game. In case anyone doesn't know, I'm a big fan of ARPGs, and most of my videos on this channel are Diablo 4 and Path of Exile related, so you could say I was pretty excited for the new content. However, as more and more information was coming out, my excitement kind of faded. I guess I've been kind of jaded about Diablo 4 since Season 1, with everything just seeming to be a downward trend. I did have fun in Season 2 and Season 4, but my expectations for the game have tanked, especially after the latest leak for Path of Exile, Settlers of Calgar, showing me what an expansion of content could have been, and that was a free update. I decided that this time, I wouldn't be purchasing the expansion for Diablo 4, and instead saving that money for Path of Exile 2, considering the early access will be paid entry, and I'm more than happy to spend the amount I paid for Diablo 4 on a game that has a team that I actually believe in making good content. So instead of playing Diablo 4, I decided to take a trip down memory lane and visit the game that started it all. Diablo 2 was always one of those games to me that felt kind of legendary. It had such an insanely huge following and dedicated player base. It seems impossible to find an ARPG fan who hasn't played it, but honestly, I kinda am one. I never really played it when I was younger because my Catholic mother was like, no, you can't play that demon game, and I really only played when my older brother let me use his PC. First time I really did dip my toes into Diablo 2 was in high school when I played a werewolf druid and got through most of normal mode, but that's about it. So you could say I'm kind of an outsider, and I'm definitely a noob when it comes to Diablo 2. However, when Diablo 2 Resurrected came out, I immediately bought it and played for real for the first time. After playing Paladin and Sorcerer through normal difficulty and Nightmare difficulty, I totally understood why people love Diablo 2 so much, and it made me super excited for Diablo 4, hoping that they would go back to something like the legacy that Diablo 2 left us. In fact, after coming back to it recently, this year, for the spooky season of October, I've been fucking addicted to it. I'm currently leveling my first ever barbarian and got him through normal mode into Act 5 Nightmare mode at the making of this video. And even though it's been a very challenging experience, because I'm playing Throw Barbarian, which is like a D tier build according to Max Roll, it's been very enjoyable trying to make what started as a meme from my friend actually work out as a build. In fact, now I've even made another paladin just to farm Hell mode in Dario for drops to help gear up my barbarian. But it's gotten me thinking, why am I enjoying playing this garbage build in a 20-year-old game instead of playing the new content for Diablo 4? Well, there's actually plenty of reasons I've come to realize. Firstly, let's talk about rune words, as they were added in Vessel of Hatred based off of Diablo 2's system, but honestly, they couldn't be more different. In Diablo 2, rune words can be massively powerful and build defining. In other ways, they can be useful leveling items, or just situationally impactful stat bonuses. With the game having up to 6 sockets on some weapons, it allows for some incredibly powerful combinations, and the runes themselves offer fairly powerful stats on their own, even if you don't use them as a rune word item. Diablo 4 rune words, however, are very different. The way I like to look at it is in Diablo 2, is like combining red and blue to make purple, as in one effect and another effect completely transforms the item to create an insanely powerful piece of gear. However, they can only work on socketed normal rarity items, so you don't get to use the powerful effect plus additional gear modifiers from blues or rares. Whereas in Diablo 4, the rune words really feel like you take red and blue and you kind of just get red and blue, or in this case, orange and purple, with no powerful transformation or combination effect really. It's just 2 extra modifiers to add on to your already powerful legendary gear modifiers. Let's take a look at these examples for a second. In Diablo 2, Insight is a very useful runeword item to put on your Act 2 mercenary, as they use polearms and spears. It requires 4 runes, Growl, Tear, Tal, and Soul, and these rune effects normally give these bonuses, but when you put them together to make the rune word, they give this result instead. In Diablo 4, however, you can only combine 2 different types of runes together, from my understanding. Let's take this rune word from Maxwell's Guide on Grenade Rogue, for example. They use Zol and Ohm, which give these effects. But if you combine them, they kind of just combine both effects together without any transformation at all. You get to use Warcry from Barbarian and then also a damage bonus. It's nice in the way that it's a power bonus for a gear, but it's also just kind of boring. In fact, I'd say there's a lot I find about Diablo 4 to be just kind of boring. Like, boring boss mechanics that you pretty much just ignore and try to burn down the boss in as little time as possible. Oh, the actual Dorial spawn? Okay, yeah, well that was a joke. That was a joke. What the hell is that? Or repeating bosses. Like, I heard Tomb Lord, of all things, makes it into the Vessel of Hatred as a reskin.
Wait a minute. This is just a Tomb Lord, but he's red. Yeah, this is just Tomb Lord.
Some season content has also just been a huge letdown and uninteresting. They've created this expansive world, but it hardly feels like there's anything to do in it aside from hell tides and traveling between dungeons outside of side quests and gathering both statues for reputation for the first time. Also, the overall plot of the game is kind of dull, especially with Vessel of Hatred, where it seems to have been a huge letdown for so many people. But in regards to the story, at least in Diablo 2's case, at the end of its own expansion, Lord of Destruction, the story is complete and finished. It doesn't end on a cliffhanger to set up for the next expansion story content. We get a proper conclusion. Vessel of Hatred doesn't feel like we get a proper finale to that particular point in the story. I'd even say that Diablo 4's base story felt more complete than Vessel of Hatred's, from what I've heard about this expansion story. That's not to say that it's all bad though. Thankfully, there has been a lot of very positive changes and improvements to the game. Like when Season 1 came out, there wasn't a whole lot of viable builds for each class. It felt more like 2 to 3 builds per class. Now they've added more uniques and legendaries to build around, which is nice. But there are still issues, and one that I find extremely annoying is the same issue that we had in Diablo 3 with Necromancer being released in the expansion. Vessel of Hatred's new class, the Spiritborn, just seems to be way more interesting, fun, and complete of a class than anything else previously. I'm sure it'll be hard to find anyone in Diablo 4 currently who won't be playing Spiritborn, not just because it's new, but because it just has a more powerful design than other classes at a base level, with how functionally different its skills work together. There's also a couple other things that I've been finding more enjoyable in Diablo 2 than in Diablo 4 lately. Like going back and farming lower tier content that is more comfortable in order to get runes and gear bases for rune words, or other items like chip gems, instead of just rushing to the highest tier content as fast as possible, and where lower tier content feels worthless to farm like in Diablo 4. Also, campaign difficulties actually add a lot of depth to the gameplay, especially with harder bosses and different gear bases dropping in different difficulty tiers. But you're still able to find exceptional bases in normal difficulty and elite bases in nightmare difficulty. When I made it to hell mode this time around on my Fist of Heaven's Paladin, I ran into this reskinned Diablo, but he was in Act 1 in the first quest. He scared the hell out of me, and someone in chat told me that he's called Uber Diablo, and if I beat him, I get one of the best charms in the game that every build uses. At the end of the day, I'm sure everyone who bought Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred is still having a lot of fun with the game, but I do think that there's a lot that the Diablo 4 team could learn from Diablo 2 and Path of Exile that they could implement in Diablo 4. At this point, I've had more fun playing a 20-year-old game than I have the entire past year playing Diablo 4, and I think that says something. Also, where the hell is Paladin? If you want to watch me play Diablo 2 Resurrected, by the way, come over to my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/WrathOfNoob. My goal for this month is to try and beat Hell mode with my Barbarian or my Paladin. Like and subscribe for more content.
D4 bad.